Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here in WardyNYM as the Metropolitans lose today at home against the Houston Astros by a final score of 8-4. So in today's video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know from this matchup, key notes from the first inning all the way till the end. What was the good? What was it bad? What was it ugly? Should we overreact to anything that transpired in today's game? And of course, I'll be getting to some of your comments here in the live show. For people watching live, for people on replay, make sure to let me know your thoughts down below as always, folks. And again, thank you all so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. And again, if you guys enjoy consistent Mets content like this, we do post-game shows basically after every single game throughout the entirety of the 2023 season, including spring training here. So make sure to smash those buttons. Really does mean a lot. And of course, I have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs. So make sure you head over to BetOnline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way, get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin. Now, folks, let's officially let the show begin. So, first of all, shout out to everyone. Shout out to Darren, my great member. Shout out to Grant, Jenny, Mets on Twitter. Shout out to everyone for being in here. Really appreciate it. First things first, I do have a new microphone. I got gifted this back in December for the holiday. I've been wanting this mic for the longest time. It's a pretty penny, so that's why it took me a bit. Had to get a nice audio mixer for it. Shout out to Elgato for hooking me up with that one. But we got it all set up, so I want to know. Let me know in the live stream, and let me know for people that are watching this video on replay. Do you like the audio? Does it sound any better than what you were hearing previously? I'd imagine that it would. The biggest thing that I noticed with this mic especially is that I can play my television. I can have someone talking to me on the side, and you will not hear anything but me. That is what I love most about this mic. These are the OG podcasting mics through Shure that you'll hear from your top podcasters out there. I mean, this is heavy duty. This should last me a very long time. So I hope you guys like the new audio. I hope that this sounds better than what I had previously. And hopefully, again, you guys just enjoy the show regardless of the fact that the Mets lost today. So let's start off with the obvious, okay? Jose Quintana comes in for his Mets debut. The Mets signed him to a really nice multi-year deal throughout the offseason. A lot of people viewed it as a bargain, including myself, and that still holds true after Quintana became a first-time All-Star for the first time in his over 10-year career. The veteran southpaw makes his debut for the Metropolitans here this spring, and he gets absolutely rocked. We'll go through it here, but I'm going to just first say it flat out. For anyone that thinks the sky is falling, that Jose Quintana is completely washed, that he's not going to be good or productive at all this year, you're just not paying attention. It's his first start of spring, guys, and there are valid reasons as to why he didn't perform well. Don't get me wrong, he was not good whatsoever, but let's also clear the air and not overreact like we tend to do as the famous schmucks, not only myself, but plenty of others here in the Mets community that do in fact believe that Quintana is the worst thing since sliced bread because he gave up 5 earned runs and not even a full inning of the first game he ever had in spring with the Mets. So let's get into it. Let's break down this game, shall we? It starts off there in the first with Myers for the Astros with a double. Pardon me. I don't know why I put Quintana with a walk. It wasn't Quintana, obviously, so I don't know exactly who that was. Either way, Abreu with an RBI double right after Jose Abreu in his first year with the Houston Astros. A long-time slugging, phenomenal first baseman with the Chicago White Sox. Comes into Houston now, trying to win a chip, and he's going to have a great chance to do so this year there in Houston. He gets in the first round of the game. Then Lee with a 2 RBI double after that. Hensley with a 2-run home run, and then they bring in Troy Miller, who's a minor league reliever for the Mets, will not be the bullpen this year right away. So in total, final line for Jose Quintana out the jump is 0.2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 0 strikeouts, and 30 pitches. Quintana, in his post-game presser that he did, and during spring especially, it's still mid-game, so he does the presser right after he's pulled from the game. He said that it was certainly an adjustment for him getting used to the pitch clock, and he had his fair share of struggles with it. Again, this is Quintana's first time really utilizing the pitch clock, other than warming up with it and doing it so far in spring over the first couple weeks outside of an actual game. A sim game maybe, if anything, but this is an adjustment for the veteran southpaw, and that's understandable. And also keep in mind that this is only Quintana's 1 and likely 2 starts he'll probably have before he's heading for Team Columbia in this year's World Baseball Classic. So us Mets fans are really not going to see much of Quintana at all this spring with the Mets, rather, as he's going to be spending the bulk of his time with Team Columbia for the WBC. So he's trying to get ramped up fast. He needs to get adjusted to the pitch clock fast, but that things are going to kind of take a turn because once he then goes to the WBC, correct me if I'm wrong for people watching this live or on replay, I'm pretty sure you don't have the pitch clock to worry about in the WBC because that is technically not Major League Baseball. That's its own entity, right? So unless I'm wrong and the new rules apply there, I'm pretty sure that he will then have his usual rules there in the WBC, which again can be a conflict of interest if you will. Things could get interesting, especially for pitchers that are attending the WBC that are trying to get acclimated to the new rules to then not use the rules and then go back to them once the season begins. So, in all honesty, do I love the fact that Quintana is going to be in the WBC? No, I do not. I don't think that's going to help his adjustment. But again, this is going to probably be the only time in his career he gets a chance to play for Team Colombia if he hasn't already in the previous WBC. So you definitely want to take advantage of those opportunities. It's pretty much the Olympics, but for baseball, right? So I understand the sentiment and the importance for players wanting to represent their heritage, especially if they're foreign and say are from Colombia and then came over to the States to play in the league, especially for those types of players. I don't blame them at all. But again, for the Mets here, it's probably not in their best interest, but I'll leave it at that. Either way, Quintana, a rough start to his Mets tenure. And I do realize I had the graphic wrong, so bear with me 1 second. I always tend to mess this up, and you'll see this throughout the year. It says Cards on the bottom when it needs to say Astros. So let me fix that. I might lag for like a hot second, then I'll be good. All right, that's fixed. Okay, it should be good now. So let's get into the entirety of this baseball game. What happened? So again, we already got people saying not a fan of Quintana. Again, I understand last year was a little bit of an outlier year. The previous 4 or 5 years, he has not pitched well and handled injury. But for Quintana's price point and the depth he brings to this rotation, no one should be writing him off yet. I think that's a very foolish and very selfish thing to do. But to be quite honest with you, anyone talking shit on Quintana simply because of his first spring outing just shows you that I don't understand how you can be a baseball fan and act like that. You know that it's quite literally a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to the baseball season. We'll first start a spring, give the guy a break. Now, if he looks cheeks all spring, all WBC long, like he doesn't make any adjustments, doesn't look any better, then we can come and have that discussion at the proper time. Now is not the time to do so. I have very little concerns with Quintana right now, and you should too. Now let's head into the bottom of the first here. And with 2 outs, Lindor gets a base knock. Mets won't do anything there. Again, the Mets did not have much offense until the latter half of this game. We get to the second, however, and keeping that being a Miller on the mound, Diaz strikes out, that being Yainer Diaz for the Astros. And he is the first guy that we've seen in a Mets game where he's out because he did not lock eyes with the pitcher in time in that second time frame that they have in between each plate appearance, each at bat, if you will. Not even at bat, just each time that they take a swing or take a pitch, they have to lock eyes with the pitcher within a certain amount of seconds. If they don't, then it's a called strike, and that called strike was his strike 3. So the Astros, a little unfortunate there, fortunate for Troy Miller and the Mets here as they would get an out, and he would have himself a clean inning there for the remainder of that second. Then we head to the third because the Mets don't do anything the second offensively. Edwin Diaz comes into the game. Not too much trumpets because they carted him in. This is something that the Mets are going to be doing plenty this year, where they're actually going to be bringing back the bullpen cart to make sure that, it gives pitchers more warm-up time to get adjusted for when they're about to throw coming in relief. But still, we will still hear the trumpets and have them walk out plenty throughout the regular season, just different here in spring. Diaz comes in without a problem with 2 outs, Bannon with a walk and a stolen base, but Hensley with a strikeout. So Edwin Diaz here in his first spring performance has himself an inning pitched, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, and that makes him crack in my Wardy's top 5 of the game. And then we head to the 4th inning because the Mets don't do anything offensively again. Ottavino comes in relief, and he looks good throughout the first 2 outs. Then he gets into a jam here. Tucker with a single and a stolen base, and then he goes from second to third off of a wild pitch. Great base running awareness by Kyle Tucker, who, in my opinion, is one of easily the most underrated players in the game today. Can steal you 20-plus bags this season, can give you 30-plus bombs, plays a very strong outfield. So super underrated, and I don't know how he's still getting slept on at this point. Phenomenal young player that's going to be representing Team USA alongside guys like Alonso and McNeil in this year's WBC. He gets himself all the way to third, but thankfully Ottavino, even after a walk and a McCormick walk, is able to get out of the jam unscathed. Then we advance forward here in the bottom of the 4th. Francisco Lindor finds himself with a walk. Alonso with a foul tip, gets on the glove, a strikeout, and he was almost hit in that at bat twice. Okay, plate appearance rather. It was not looking good at all. First, it was a pitch up and in that he had to jump down for, fall fall on the ground in the batter's box, and he had to get up right away because he only has a couple seconds to make sure he's adjusted and locking eyes with the pitcher. And then it just foul tips into the glove, and that does it for his at bat. So nothing there in the fourth. We get to the fifth, though. Jeff Brigham, one of the relievers competing for the Mets bullpen this spring. He was acquired, of course, in that trade with the Miami Marlins, and Elijah Hernandez, the first move the Mets made officially this past offseason. Brigham has himself a nice outing, 2 outs, and then Hensley would have walked, but that does it. So Jeff Brigham's final line, a full inning, gives himself a walk, no hits, no earned runs, and a strikeout. Like that for Brigham for sure. I'd like to see more of that from him as well. A guy with a nice, nasty slider when he was working right. And then we get to the bottom of the fifth. Mets offense is starting to kick in. Eduardo Escobar gets a walk. Omar Narvaez gets a walk, back-to-back walks. And then DJ Stewart, who is a fourth outfielder type that's going to be starting the year in AAA for the Mets, was previously in the Baltimore Orioles organization. Stewart, who's off to a really hot spring, continues to stay hot with an RBI double to drive in a run. Mets get on the board there. McNeil with an RBI ground out, and Francisco Lindor goes 2 for 2 on the day, with his second hit of the day being an RBI single. Mets are down 5-3 at that point in the game. Then we head to the sixth. Zach Green, who was the Rule 5 pick that the Mets acquired from, yes, the New York Yankees throughout the offseason. Green, the 26-year-old right-hander, a lot of movement with his pitches for sure. A big strikeout guy, not a flamethrower, but definitely a big strikeout guy, and he really impressed me a lot today. We'll get into his arsenal a little bit before we wrap up the show here. Green's final line, 1 inning pitch, 0 hits, 1 walk, 0 earned run, 1 strikeout, the same as Brigham. But honestly, just because I liked a little bit more than what I saw from Green than what I saw from Brigham, that's why I have him in the top 5. But again, potato, it doesn't matter who you have there if you're doing your own picks at home. Then we get to the 7th inning. Eric Orsi comes in, and Eric Orsi did not look sharp, but he did not give up a run. Orsi's a guy that, again, would love to compete for this bullpen. On the outside looking in, however, with the amount of depth that the Mets have that they built throughout this offseason and acquiring guys to compete for said bullpen, Orsi goes to aim pitch with surrendering 1 hit, 2 walks, a strikeout, no earned runs, and that is perfectly fine. Then we head to the 8th inning. Okay, TJ McFarland, the veteran southpaw, looking to hopefully try to crack this Mets bullpen, add more lefties into it. McFarland had an absolute stinker. This is why you see here in the show to the bottom left, southpaws falter and lost to the Cardinals, because the only runs that the Mets gave up today were by their lefties, starting out with Jose Quintana and then fast forwarding all the way to the top of the 8th with McFarland, who gives up a total of 2 home runs, 3 earned runs total, 3 hits, 2 walks. The guy was absolute cheeks today, 2 strikeouts, but not his day for sure, and definitely not going to help him trying to make a case to be in this Mets bullpen, if at all, to start the season. Then we get to the 9th, guys. William Woods comes in to pitch, has himself a scoreless 9th, 1 inning pitch, no hits, no earned runs, no strikeouts, no walks. That's fine, and only 16 pitches. And then the bottom of the 9th, and this is what gets me excited. Pardon me, I missed something. Let's backtrack a second. Let's go back to the bottom of the 8th. I missed it in my notes, and I don't know how I missed it because this is important. And the bottom of the 8th, the youngsters sticking out once again. Ronnie Mauricio with a walk. Tim LeCastro with a hit by pitch, who actually has a higher hit by pitch rate than Mark Canha. And Mark Canha was surprised by that when told by that in the ESPN coverage today, doing an interview with them. And his response to that was, wow, good for him, which I found hilarious. No less, LeCastro gets on base with a hit by pitch. And then Brett Beatty, what does he do? Beatty drives in a run with a RBI single right up the middle to narrow down the Mets deficit to only 4 runs. It's 8-4 at that point. Brett Beatty continues to stay hot this spring. He is going to be a big talking point. Him and Ronnie Mauricio in tonight's Bleav in Queens podcast that'll be live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, former New York Met and now MLB Network analyst Anthony Recker, and Joe Sorrell will be going over all the latest updates and sharing our raw reactions to the first impressions of spring training. Again, make sure to check it out tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time here on the YouTube channel, and then we'll be uploaded around midnight wherever you get your audio podcast for the Bleav in Queens pod. So stay tuned for that one. And then in the 9th, with 2 outs, Araz gets himself a single for the Mets, minor leaguer, and that does it for the ball game. So the Mets in total lose by a final of 8-4. Shout out to everyone first chiming in again. It really does mean a lot. It still says Cards. Are you kidding me? I thought I update text here. Hold on. It doesn't still. Hold on. I could have sworn I updated the text down below. No. Why would it still say Cards? It doesn't still say Cards. So you must have been behind, AB. I don't know what you were talking about. But okay, guys, so that's all the stats. That's all you need to know. A couple things I want to share with you before we go forward here in the show. One, again, podcast tonight. Can't emphasize that enough. It's going to be a great show. Make sure to chime in, whether you watch it live at 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight, probably be around 8:05, 8:10, because we're always idiots and a couple minutes late. We apologize for that. And two, make sure to check it out on a replay in case you don't watch it live. Not a problem. It's going to be a great discussion tonight. Finally, us three talking Mets baseball, where baseball is happening before the World Baseball Classic begins for a lot of the Mets top veterans that are going to be playing for their respective countries. But also, and again, I'm not trying to turn anyone off by this. If you're an Islanders fan, a Devils fan, I know that the Islanders, of course, got Bo Horvat not too long ago. I know that the Devils just got Timo Meier. Congratulations to both those fan bases. But I'm a Rangers fan. I have a Rangers podcast, and the Rangers officially acquired Patrick Kane today. So if you are a Ranger fan too, make sure to chime into the Rangers Review YouTube channel that I have linked down below in the description of this video, because myself and Statboy Steven, who is a stats guru covering the Rangers all the way from Dublin, Ireland, we're going to be going live to share our raw reactions, a breakdown, and dissect the trade for Patrick Kane arriving in New York as soon as this show ends. So probably right around 5 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to check it out. Again, links down below in the description, more than likely, and at the Rangers Review YouTube channel, or wherever you get your audio podcast for Rangers Review. Again, and that's all I'm going to say on that front for hockey. I don't want to turn too many fans off. I know they're like, oh my God, he's a Rangers fan. He's a schmuck. I get it. I'm a schmuck, but you don't need to tell me twice if I already know it beforehand. So, raw reactions to today's game. What we saw, Quintana, it definitely wasn't appealing. It wasn't something that I was happy to see by any stretch, but it was still at least nice to see him on the mound, even though that once he started pitching, it wasn't good. And I know that I'm trying to make positives out of nothing here, but I am looking forward to seeing Quintana in his next start, because that'll likely, if I'm not mistaken, that'll probably be his last start before he then goes off to World Baseball Classic, if this isn't the only one, because WBC, games officially start to unravel around March 10th, that area, which is when I'm going to spring training for the Mets, March 10th to March 5th, 14th. I'll be at Port St. Lucie for 4 or 5 spring training games, more than likely, and I'll also be hitting Miami for at least one WBC game. That's Sunday night, March 12th. Team Venezuela with Eduardo Escobar, Omar Narvaez, and that'll be facing off against Francisco Lindor and Edwin Diaz's team Puerto Rico. So I'll be doing coverage there during that time. But yeah, it looks like Quintana might at most have one more start until then, right? And we'll see how he looks then. For me, I just hope that him again shifting from spring with these limitations, with the new rules, the adjustments to the pitch clock, that he doesn't get back into his old ways, which I know he's going to with the WBC, for that to hurt him more when he arrives with the Mets towards the end of spring, heading into the regular season start. Thankfully, and this is what I love about this, is one, the Mets have Quintana on a very, very favorable contract. So God forbid, let's talk worst case scenario, okay? For the people that already are writing this guy off somehow, I'll play devil's advocate for you, okay? If Quintana is not looking good to start the year, if he doesn't look good in large parts throughout the year, what do you think the Mets are going to do? They're going to rely on their number 6 or number 7 options, and David Pearson, who looked electric, the best starter so far in spring for the Mets, hands down, looked fantastic yesterday. Even though the Mets faltered, he didn't give up any runs, though. He was great. Like two clean innings and like 25 pitches. Loved it. David Pearson is looking to still make an impact in this rotation whenever called upon, and Tyler McGill is right behind him. So thankfully, the Mets have the starting pitching depth that, even God forbid, if Quintana does not look well throughout the year, Carrasco doesn't look well, if injuries inevitably happen, which we always know are destined to occur, thankfully the Mets are in a spot where they have proper starting pitching depth where they can deal with that going forward. Offensively, again, my biggest takeaway is not much to harp on today. Not a lot of excitement. Hopefully we get some better offense tomorrow, but I was very happy to see Brett Beatty get a base knock for an RBI. Again, Beatty this spring, for those that are wondering, he's batting .571 with a 1,600 OPS. Now, does that mean very little? Yes, of course. It's not only the start of spring, but it's spring. I get it. He needs to prove it. But this is a Brett Beatty, who I've said time and time again, who I'll say on the podcast later tonight with Anthony Recker and Joe Sorallo, how he's someone that is going to have an abundance of ability, so much time to really get reps at third base. A lot of starts this spring because Eduardo Escobar is playing for Team Venezuela with WBC. Oh, you know what? I get, you're right. You guys are right. My mistake. It does say cards on the graphic, but it says cards on the graphic and the yellow. That's on me. That's on me. But it said cards down below. You get what I'm saying? It said cards down below on the ticker, where you see the text moving. That's where I thought it was, where it only was. So my apologies to you, AB, and I apologize to anyone else that was trying to prove me wrong, because you were right and I was wrong. And for people on replay, I know you're probably like, this guy's an effing schmuck. He's an idiot. How do you not notice that? I agree with you. My bad. That's on me. But I'm going to leave it there because we're going to wrap up the show in the next 5 to 10 minutes tops. So it is what it is. But I see what you're saying now. My mistake, everybody. Yeah, I'm an idiot for that one. But offensively, again, between Brett Beatty, Roddy Mauricio, and even the guys that are going to be starting the year in AAA more than likely, with DJ Stewart, fourth outfielder type. Tim McCastro could play anywhere. Looking very nice. I mean, we saw Cedrola yesterday look good. Abraham Almonte looking very solid. I mean, these guys have been far and away the best hitters for the Mets this spring. I mean, they're simply outplaying the vets. And I get it. The vets, they're just trying to get themselves comfortable and acclimated, because a lot of the guys that say aren't doing too much yet are the same guys that are going to be playing in the WBC. So spring training performance means very little to them, and I'm aware of that, and I completely get it. So these guys have something to prove. It's nice to see that early on they're really proving it. They're showing production, and we'll see exactly how long this goes on for. With Beatty, Mauricio, and then the lessers, the guys that aren't prospects but are looking to crack a bench spot, and the Stewarts, the Almontes, the LeCastros. We'll see how long they stay hot for. But especially with those kids, it's exciting. Now, the only kid that really that hasn't done anything yet in spring in the first 5 games is Francisco Alvarez. So he's the guy to watch for the remainder of the week. And speaking of the remainder of the week, we have good updates pitching wise. Kodai Senga, who pitched a sim game, looked good. He'll be making his spring debut this Sunday, and I will likely be covering that game for a post-game show, so stay tuned for that. Prior to that, Saturday, Justin Verlander is making his spring debut against the Miami Marlins. And before that, on Friday, Mad Max is back on the bump for his second spring outing. So in total, Friday, Scherzer, Saturday, Verlander, Sunday, Senga. Lots to be excited about. I know I am, and I'm grateful that, again, they line up to pitch when I'm going to be there in Port St. Lucie next weekend, from the 10th to the 14th. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to get some nice vlog coverage or streams. However we're going to go about content, I'm really, really looking forward to it. But yeah, that's all that really needs to be said in this one, guys. Again, it's a Mets loss. Nothing too pretty from it. There weren't many highlights I could even show you here. I couldn't even find proper clips for, like the Lindor RBI, unless I screen record it while watching the game, and I didn't get a chance to. It is what it is, but I was happy to see Beatty again have the performance that he did. I'm also excited to be covering the Mets, of course, for the remainder of the week. There's a solid chance that we will cover every single spring training game for the remainder of the week. If we miss a game or two, then there's reasons for that. So I'll keep you guys updated. But again, if you guys enjoy consistent post-game content like this all throughout the regular season, we're going to be having special guests on throughout the regular season, especially for certain post games, at least once a week. Podcasts after every series to recap and then preview the upcoming one. So much content is coming out this year, and I cannot wait for you guys to be part of it. As always, thank you all so much for the endless support. I love you guys all to death. I got to run. I got to get out of here. So again, make sure to check out the Rangers Review podcast. That'll be live in the next 10 to 15 minutes, covering the Patrick Kane trade for people that are New York Ranger fans. And if you're not a Ranger fan, then ignore what I just said and stay tuned for the Mets podcast, Bleav in Queens, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whatever it is for you guys. And as always, let's go Mets, baby. This is Wardy signing out. I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Peace.